I don't want to.
Yeah, I was gonna come here, I was saying, well, maybe,
You're making up that.
no, I'm gonna go. Too many of us in a group.
Did you go? Oh, you did.
Oh, I fell.
Oh.
About 2:15.
Oh.
Trying to hang curtains because she's on vacation. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Sherry Pickering. Alderman Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Robert Williams. Darren York.
Here.
John Cooper.
Here.
Chairman Rick Strebe.
Here.
5 present.
Present, thank you. Puts us item number 2, approval of the minutes. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the minutes for 3/25 of 25.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Approval of the agenda in front of you this evening. I don't think there's any changes in it. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Which is item number 4, audience comments.
Has everyone had a chance to complete a yellow card who wishes to speak this evening? Okay, when I call your name, please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. First, I have Nancy Irwin of Danville regarding tenant issues, including manager complaints. Is that correct? Okay.
I don't remember. I could read it to you. I have a lot of nerve damage in this arm. It's hard to
That's
write.
okay.
Okay. Y'all know me. I know you know me. I guess most of my questions since the last time I spoke, legal counsel wasn't here, so I guess my questions are to legal counsel tonight. I'm not going to speak names
You need to
tonight.
speak into the microphone, Miss Ingram.
Oh, sorry.
Irwin, I'm sorry.
I don't like my voice, though.
You're good.
I know I'm not going to get anywhere, and it'll never go anywhere. I guess I'm here to protect the future good citizens of our town. I was a good citizen. I lived in one home for 21 years and raised my family, 6 grandkids. I might get tearful, because this is my life. I was an RN. I know a lot of people in this town walk with 3 kings apiece. I made a mistake, and I'm not going to get into that tonight. But my complaint tonight, Leon, Parker, Mr. Leon Parker, counsel. I came to you on October 11th after court. It wasn't because I went to court. The words were, what's going on with the city ordinance regarding retaliation? You said, I don't know what's going on with it. We have an ordinance. After telling you my story, I guess a friend told more, and I wish I could have told more, because you filled out the same paperwork that Sandra, our previous employee, filled out. Exact same issues. Yeah, I screwed up. I got tired of it because I come to the city. I reached out in the way I was encouraged to do and thought I was doing the right thing. It had been my fault. Nothing but retaliation. You spoke with land management, property management. As I got all the paperwork from the Freedom of Information Act, but you never got anything from me. Nothing. The proof. I do have one important thing that you didn't, not have seen, that I got a vacate on July 15th. I spoke with Garcia Jack Property on July 19th due to a personal matter that I'm not going to talk about. Nothing mentioned. When I went to Facebook about Rusty Water and all the other issues that he's known for as long as he's owned the house. Poor Bill Engel, the original guy, he died, but why? I know I'm not going to go nowhere. I'm not going to get nowhere. You wrote an ordinance, and the state wrote an ordinance. What about the next tenant that comes along?
Thank you, Ms.
Pouring
Herman.
out my heart.
Ms. Herman, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry
It's
Hawker
affected my health.
of Danville regarding rental registration.
Good evening, Jerry Hawker, resident of the city of Danville. Here on a couple of things. First of all, the city rental registration, you're proposing on doubling the fee from 15 to 30. It doesn't sound like very much, 15 bucks. It's not very much if you own one house. What about the apartments? Do you realize that 47% of your housing in this city are owned by landlords? That means 47% of your housing are going to go up $15 a piece. You already raised the garbage, you've already raised the sewer, all that the landlords have to pay. Please consider that. Second of all, your internal inspections. You have a mechanism currently. If a tenant has a problem, all they have to do is call the city, say, hey, the landlord won't do this, broken pipe. It triggers an internal inspection. But if the tenant doesn't want you in there, it's a clear-cut violation of the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Think about that. The next thing, I have filed a lot of freedom of information lately in reference to tenant complaint. I've received 99% of it finally after about 4 FOIA requests. But the whole file on a certain tenant is lost. It's gone. It disappeared. Baloney. It didn't. Something that it's here. Follow the emails. Guess where the last point that file was at? Corporation Counsel. I wrote every single one of you over a month ago requesting an investigation into corporate counsel. I received a call back from 2 aldermen. Absolutely no action. Nothing official back from my complaint. You've got your corporation counsel has targeted me. They have targeted a member of this council. This is not a dictatorship. I'm sorry. But the mayor and corporation council of this city are out of control, and I demand an investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawker.
That's all I have.
Anybody else like to speak to Public Services Committee at this time? Jockish?
My name is Gail Jockum. I'm a landlord for Danville Properties. I wasn't sure if I was going to speak tonight, but I am. There was a meeting yesterday, thank you very much, for landlords along with several members of the committee that is dealing with this registration and interior inspections ordinances. There were a number of points that were brought up that either needed clarification or rewritten or something, but I had not received the revised revisions prior to yesterday's meeting, although they were sent out. I have only the ones that were here as of the April 1st meeting. So I apologize, I didn't have those. I had asked to have that sent to me electronically today so that I did in fact have the latest version in an electronic format, and it wasn't able to be sent yet. There were a number of points raised, and I will go along with Jerry Hawker's 47% of the housing in Danville is rentals. That's not an exorbitant number, but that represents a huge economic stream of monies into the economy here. So that's, something to remember. We're spending an awful lot of money keeping Danville afloat. The Fourth Amendment actually still stands. Invading a tenant's property if they don't choose to have you there is wrong. It's absolutely against it. Now, one of the things that was brought up yesterday is for the interior inspections, if the tenant does not want you to come in, it was clearly stated a couple of times that it would not be entered. The home would not be entered if the tenant did not give permission, and the tenant had to do that. So I am interested in seeing that written into these ordinances, and there's a number of things that were addressed yesterday that I'm pretty sure have not been changed, altered, revised, shared with anybody between yesterday and today. The tenant complaints system is already in force, and absolutely I don't think there's anyone that's got a problem. If the tenant has a legitimate complaint, first thing is you find out, have you talked to your landlord? Is your rent paid to date? Have you been served any kind of 5, 10, or 30-day notice? Those are the first things, but you have to have talked to the landlord first, or you don't have a legitimate complaint. While that is part of the complaint form, it's not the first thing on there, and it needs to be. As far as the ordinances, I applaud the city for wanting to get rid of blight, absolutely. There's not a landlord in the world that wants to have a crappy-looking property. If there are a few of them out there, they're, not nearly the majority. There's a lot of time been spent on putting these revisions together. Spend the time going after the problems and not the whole classroom. And that's about it for right now. As I said, I've not had a chance to go through the most recent revisions of these. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Puts us item number 5. Chairman's comments, I really have none. Puts us item number 6, approval of payrolls for 4/17 of 25. I'll need a motion and a second for approval, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on payrolls? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Teague,
Yes.
Alderman Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
Yes. Puts us to item number 7, approval of vouchers payables for 4/22 of 25. I'll need a motion and a second to approve.
So move.
Second.
Is there any questions on vouchers payables at this time? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to item number 8, city clerk's report. Miss Lisa Munson, city clerk, items of information.
Thank you, Chairman. The staff is continuing the annual business license renewal process. We've been quite busy the past month responding to FOIA requests. We have 23 FOIA requests so far this month, and some of those have taken up quite a bit of time to respond to in the searching and gathering of documents. We are working on documents regarding the newly elected alderman who will be sworn in at the regular city council meeting on May 6th. And I just wanted to remind everyone to submit your statement of economic interest form if you haven't submitted that yet. It's due May 1st. That's all I have.
Any questions for Miss Munson? Thank you.
Thank you.
Puts us on item number 9, community relations. Brianna Oles, administrator, her item of information.
Hi guys, I just had a couple of things. So Wednesday the 23rd from 5 to 6:30 at Carl, we'll be having the first comprehensive plan meeting. It's open to the community. So we'd love to see you guys there, and if you guys can all help us share the word. We want as many people as we can, so we make sure that we're forming a comprehensive plan, making sure that we're addressing everybody and all the concerns, because this will only affect you, but your grandchildren and everybody else for the future of the city. And then the second one is the very next day, Thursday the 24th, from 10 to 11:30. This one's at the Fisher Theater, and it is not specific to downtown only. However, we have approached every downtown business. I've personally delivered them a flyer to have them attend and be able to share whatever they would like to make sure is addressed in the comprehensive plan.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, dear. Puts us item number 10, finance, Alyssa Sweeten, comptroller, her items of information. 10-1 is fiscal year 2024-2025 cash flow and budget performance report. Personnel monthly reports, number 2, and number 3 is February and March 2025 risk management monthly report. Ms. Sweeten?
Were there any questions on any of the reports that were sent? As far as in the department, we're continuing to work on the audit for 24. We're approaching fiscal year end, so that's kind of chaotic in the department right now. Just trying to make sure that everything that needs to be recorded in 25 is being recorded in 25 before the year ends. Otherwise, it's pretty quiet.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Actually, I'm going to contact you about, I missed this the first time I looked at it. I'm going to contact you about one of the risk claims on here,
Okay.
because the person, and since that person is not here, I don't want to use names, but that person said that they got a letter saying it was denied. That's not what it says on here, though. So that's why I want to contact you about
Is it on
that.
the March report or the,
It's on the February.
okay.
And the person, and it's possible that they've had communication with you since I saw them, but they mentioned it to me.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions for the comptroller? Thank you.
Thank you.
Puts us item number 11. Fire, Aaron Marcotte, Fire Chief, has a resolution, 11A, authorizing the sale of a 1998 Pierce Saber pumper truck. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 11A's resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, Streebing,
Yes.
5
5
yes.
yes, thank you. 14B is a resolution authorizing disposal of an unused fire department fleet vehicle, car number 22. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 14B, 11B's resolution? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes?
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. 11C, is a resolution approving an application for a CSX Community Service Grant. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 11C's resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Okay, 11D is a resolution approving the contract for fire services to the VA Ileana Healthcare Facilities. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 11D's resolution? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Streebing,
Yes.
5
5
yes.
yes, thank you. Well, Chief, it puts us items of information in your monthly status report.
Just some updates. We ran some numbers today. This time last year, we had 67 inspections done. This year, we have over 200 done already this year at the same time frame. So Tim organizing that, emphasis on that with the engine companies really kind of helped there. We have received 3 intent to retires this year. So May 5th, we'll be hiring. We've already got that in the works, already going through their processes to get them replaced ahead of time, just to stay ahead of that overtime sort of burden. Other than that, calls have stabilized, more like still has seen an increase overall in overall EMS calls, but that's all the fire department is really. A lot of training going on.
Good.
How many did you say were retiring?
We have intents to retire for 3. One's next month, and then we have one in September and one in November. So.
Okay. Thank you. I know some people on the list who are
Okay, yep.
hoping to be called.
Well, it's nice that they let you know, because you remember a couple of years ago, they all fell out at once,
Yes,
and we
it's really
didn't,
not-
we didn't
Get them
know.
to academy,
anything.
get them out of
Yeah.
academy by the time they're walking out there and get them in,
Yeah.
in on services. So we're hoping to save that process.
Thank you, Chief. Item number 12, Information Technology, Agnell De Silva, Chief Technological Officer. His item of information, his monthly report. Agnell?
Thank you, Chairman. I hope everyone received the report, monthly status report. Are there any questions on the report?
Anybody have any questions for Agnell?
Okay. So one quick update. I know this came up a couple times regarding the electronic attendance for city council members, to attend remotely. So I've been doing some research on that. I'm working with Lisa on that as well. So just to give you an update on where we are with that. So our existing audio system, basically it's an upgrade that we did back in 2015. So half the rack of the equipment is from the late 90s. So there's a lot of limitations. We cannot have the fully integrated audio video streaming as well as, remote attendance. So I looked into a couple of options. So I ordered some adapters to see if that's going to help us at least do the audio using a phone. So I'll know more about it tomorrow. So it's like a $50 adapter that we could try. Use our existing phone, and they can dial in and at least participate in the city council and committee meetings. So a second option is, a year ago we looked into some options of upgrading our existing system that would support all our needs. And that the quote back then, May of 2024, was $29,000 just to upgrade our existing system. And that does not include our remote meeting and things like that. So we add another $10,000 to that. So approximately $40,000 is what we're looking at if we wanted to do the whole thing in this building. So I know we are also looking at a new design, a completely new system across the street once we move into the new building. So my recommendation would be, either we find if that's, inexpensive fixed work, then we could do the audio for now. And then down the road, we design a better system that can accommodate all the needs. And at that point, otherwise we'll be upgrading this and paying for the labor here, and then we're gonna pay this same amount of labor, maybe more over there, to redo it all over again. Because audiovisual is something we have to hire an expert. We don't have the expertise in-house to do that. So that's the most expensive part, is the labor. So we're gonna try that tomorrow and see if the inexpensive fix is gonna help us. If not, we can, I can provide you further updates on that in the next meeting.
Yes.
Or I can send out an email.
Ms. Ludwig?
I was just going to ask how much the adapters cost for this.
This was just $50.
Okay.
Yeah,
Me, I would say, for now,
just give it a try, yeah.
give it a try.
Yeah, and if it didn't work, I can always
There's
send
no
it
need to
back.
throw
Yep.
money into this if we're gonna be moving over there and
And
revamping.
a couple of components we found out today is they're failing. One of the recorders is failing, and then there's no replacement. It's a really old recorder.
Yeah.
And all the controls and stuff. So we'll look into more.
Well, I'd like for you to bring your comments back next week for the full council.
I can do that.
Let everybody hear it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Vice Mayor.
I have one question, and I don't know if this is a question that needs to be answered tonight, but curious to know the ordinance that we have on the books, which obviously predates my tenure here on the council, allow for something, because it was written in 20, so obviously it was during COVID, but it allowed for something that obviously is not possible. So I'm trying to understand how we passed an ordinance that we can't actually implement. Like, or what was the vision behind implementing it at that time, if that was just, well, everybody goes on Zoom, or was it something else?
I think it was everybody goes on Zoom, because we didn't have any plans to look at anything, because we didn't know how long it was gonna last.
Okay.
So we were able to use COVID money to get everybody computers for their home, and that took care of the problem at the time.
Okay.
So we may have to look at that ordinance again.
Or yeah, because if we can't actually do the thing that's written in the ordinance, then we
Well, if we
at
get
a problem.
I think if we get the new equipment when we move,
Right.
he's capable of doing that. Like you said, this one is since from
Late 90s. Late 90s.
late 90s, and they've upgraded a little bit, but you can't get parts and stuff. I mean, if you're good at 5 years, we've had all this time for it, so that's why I want to bring it back and let all the aldermen hear it. So,
Sure. That's all I have.
thank you, Agnew.
Thank you.
Thank your people for all their stuff that they do to keep us running.
Thank you.
Questions item number 13, legal. Leon Parker Corporate Counsel has an ordinance amending Chapter 163 rental registration, paperwork to follow. 13B is items of information and monthly report. 13A, have an ordinance amending Chapter 163 rental registration. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Got a motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, let me,
Hold it.
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is there any discussion or debate on item 13A? I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
In regards to this meeting they had yesterday, I didn't know anything about it. I don't think Darren knew anything about it either. I don't know who knew about it. There any notes or anything that was taken at what's any of their recommendations that we should be looking at?
I have no idea.
Well, join the club.
I have no idea.
You know, and that's really not fair to these people.
I know.
It's not right to have a meeting and then we don't find out anything about it. And then they're making recommendations that none of us get. I've got a problem with that.
Ms. Ludwig?
The first time around with this, when there was, these meetings, we didn't receive notes during any of those meetings. That's not how it works. And anytime we ever do changes to ordinances, we don't provide meeting notes to any of the council persons. That's not how we've ever done it.
Was there any changes done to this
So
because of the meeting?
I can answer that. So what you have in front of you is the most recent proposed for your consideration to changes to Chapter 163. And that in our previous council meeting was suggested by some of the alderpersons that we get some, and there were some landlords present, that we get some feedback from the landlords. And we met with those landlords that wanted to attend. There was a couple that we reached out to that own probably the majority of the rental units in town. They're at least the largest, two of the largest. And then some of the individuals that spoke at that council meeting, we reached out to them. And so we had several of the landlords that showed up yesterday with members of our committee that showed up. And we got some good feedback. I thought it was a pretty productive meeting. We got some feedback from the landlords. So I think the next step is going to get our rental registration, Chapter 163 committee together, hopefully in the next couple days, so that we can incorporate some of those suggestions, make some changes, and present to the full council next Tuesday a revised Chapter 163 for the council's consideration.
So what are we doing with this then? I mean, you're going to make changes to this. What are we doing with it?
That's what I'm going to ask.
Huh?
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, we're not even.
We just now received it.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to even talk about it, or if you're doing this.
So,
Well,
Vice Mayor?
so this document that was at our seats, this is revised as of what date?
I can't give you a specific date, but.
But not yesterday.
Not
No,
yesterday.
no.
So this would have been what we tabled already at the
Right.
last meeting, because that was the last revision that I'm aware of.
I think that's accurate,
Okay.
yes.
But
And
he's
our-
saying he's going to do additional.
Right, I understand. I was just, one of the things he said was it was the most recent, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know when the most recent revision was. That's why I asked for the specific date. So it's not as of yesterday, which is what I expected this to be.
Okay.
So
So
this
if we
has already
vote
been
on-
tabled.
I guess if we vote on this thing, there's not gonna be any additions to it. We're voting on this.
This was already tabled. The version that we
Voting on this
have.
tonight.
That doesn't seem to gel with what we already did. Because we all tabled it at I don't know which full meeting it was. I don't
can't
remember the
remember
dates
either.
anymore.
Yeah.
But we tabled it so that it could be changed. What we said at that meeting, the last time this came up at the last full council meeting, and that this was on the agenda, that it needed a change that both the landlords and tenants asked for, and that change was that tenants be notified about citations. That was the thing that I brought up that night. As a matter of fact, I could tell you when it was because it was right after I got my citation. So it was April, the first week of April, because my citation was postmarked March 28th. So the first meeting in April, this got tabled. And what I brought up after that, and that was the reason why I brought it up, because my tenant did not get a copy of the citation. So when we were having conversations about what fixes needed to be made, and there's a list in the citation, she doesn't have it. So she's not looking at the same piece of paper that I'm looking at. So she doesn't know everything that needs to be done, or actually pieces of paper.
Right.
So it reminded me of prior conversation. I remember this because I was the one who brought it up. It reminded me of prior conversations about it, and it was actually one of the things that multiple landlords came to the podium and asked for. And I also know, because of the case that I referred to Human Relations, which was not Ms. Irwin's case, the case that I referred to Human Relations, one of the reasons that situation occurred is because the tenant did not know about the citation. So that's the main thing that I asked for that night, which is what resulted in it being tabled in the first meeting of, this is still April, right? The first meeting of this month. And it was, so then there has not been, prior to yesterday's meeting, any other meetings of the committee regarding this. Now, what I had asked the chairman for, because obviously there's lots of conversation and lots of wrangling that had happened privately with alder people. And I agree with Alderwoman Ludwig, is that what we've always done anytime we've been rewriting ordinances, whether we do it on our own or with Corporation Counsel, is that we don't provide notes about those conversations. This is different because as a result of public coming and making comments, public people were then invited to participate in the conversation. However, we could not all be in the conversation at the same time, because if we did so, it would violate the Open Meetings Act. What I had asked for with the chairman was, it seemed to me, because we were pretty much done. Like, there was one thing that we wanted, which was just the notification. But we had not heard the landlords, and that was their complaint, and rightfully so. They have every right to be able to provide feedback. What I had emailed chairman and asked for was, well, can we just do this here at the committee? That way, we all get to hear the conversation at the same time. We all get to be able to provide input or feedback before it goes back to some people for final writing. Chairman said, yes, there was, so I think it was like a week after the meeting. So the first meeting in April, I don't remember what the first Tuesday in April was. But within a week of that meeting, I emailed chairman and said, can we do this publicly? And I said, and if you agree to this, then what I plan to do is email all of the people who had contacted me after the meeting and say, come to the public services meeting so that you can all provide your input publicly. Chairman said, yes, that's okay. But there was like a week difference, because we don't work for the city. We don't check our emails every day. Yeah. So it was about a week difference. And then between the time he emailed me back and the time I got ready to email the people who had contacted me, and two of those landlords are here that contacted me because they came to me after the meeting, and I sent them this after the meeting, because I sent them the copy that I had. Here's your document, take a look at it, provide your feedback. I also had some emails with a tenant who brought up some of the concerns that a couple of landlords already brought up, which was, I have a great relationship with my landlord, and I don't necessarily know if I want somebody to come in my house, and I should be able to say no. So the tenant and I went back and forth about the reasoning behind that, and it was probably about 5 emails exchanged. At any rate, I said, so I'm taking all of these things into consideration because I'm one of the people who's been in all of these meetings about this for the last more than 2 years. But I'm hoping that we can have a public conversation about it. So I'm just letting everybody know. I like to make sure everybody knows everything. So letting everybody know all of the exchanges. So next, what I found out was that a meeting was called here by staff at the city, and I was invited. I knew I was unavailable. I suggested that Chairman Streebing or Alderman Cooper be invited because I knew that both of them couldn't be invited because it would violate OMA, but I suggested at least one of them be invited so that way there still be other people on the committee who were involved, because obviously Alderwoman Pickering, who was the only person from council that was there, is not here. She can't speak to Alderman's perspective on the conversation. And I understand landlords' perspectives, but at the end of the day, the reason why we did this is to be able to help protect tenants and to be able to protect tenants' rights. And I know, and I've had conversations with landlords who say, yes, we want you to do that, but don't punish us all for doing that. And I'm a landlord, so I get it. And you know, we're taking all of that into consideration. We need to be able to review the documents and research and do our you all know our research. Do our research on things before we vote. There's nothing to really vote on tonight on this because this hasn't changed since we tabled it in the first meeting in April. So as it relates to what's on the floor, it might as well just be tabled because there's nothing for us to vote on. I would like to, now, because of the fact that there were public participants in the meeting, I would like to know, like, what changes are being made or suggested as a result of the meeting, and how those compare to what's already here, even if it's just an overview, just so that we can get some insight. But the thing that we asked for was the one change, which was notification to the tenants about citations.
Yeah, if you'll remember, I think when we talked about this, I think they come up with Wednesday, they were gonna have a meeting, and it was decreed that it was gonna be yesterday. So if they would have done it back when we first discussed it and talked about it, we could have given time for the newspapers and everybody to know, and we could have held a regular roundtable discussion, and everybody would have been aware of it, and there'd been no problem of the Opens Meeting Act.
Right, because I believe I emailed you on April 10th.
Yes, yes.
So just for some clarification, at that last council meeting where some of the landlords attended and voiced some opinions, concerns, after that, on April 14th, I did try and schedule a meeting with our committee to take in some of these concerns, which included Vice Mayor Teague's notice issue, and we wanted to hear from some of the landlords and address their concerns. I did reach out to some of the landlords. I did receive some input from them. And we were wanted to schedule a meeting with the committee to address this on Wednesday, April 16th. There was some opposition to that, so it didn't happen. So we scheduled the meeting yesterday. That meeting wrapped up sometime between 4 and 4:30 in the afternoon. So we did get good feedback, but just not enough time to incorporate everything, and there was certainly not time to meet with the committee to address those issues. And typically, how this works is we've got a committee that consists of 2 alderpersons, the mayor, myself, the assistant corporation counsel, 2 legal assistants who handle all the paperwork, and a code enforcement officer. So we look at this from every aspect. Now we have input from the landlords who have expressed concern. So we want to take that into consideration, and it's the committee. We don't. I've not seen other issues discussed in open meetings, but it's not my call. But we do have a committee, and we have been trying to address this. We do want to make changes to Chapter 163.
But I think to get everybody on the same page, it would be nice, because we can't meet more than 3 of us.
Correct.
And if we'd have done it on a regular, let's make a night, we'll all be here, and then we could have invited all the landlords. Everybody would have been fine with it. That's what I thought. But evidently I was wrong.
I agree.
And one of the concerns is don't punish. We're not looking to punish, but don't punish all the landlords. And we touched on this yesterday when we discussed this. We need an ordinance that is fair to the tenants and the landlords, and we can't target specific landlords. It's a broad ordinance that all landlords, all tenants are addressed. And contrary to Mr. Hawker's public comments that he's being targeted, we don't target any landlord. And it may be upsetting to some that they're not afforded special treatment, but we don't give special treatment at either. So we don't target in the legal department, and nobody gets special treatment. So that's our objective, is to present to this council a Chapter 163 that is fair to all.
Okay, thank you. And you give us this 163 tonight, and it doesn't have everything it took in last night, so.
Because we could not, the meeting, there was opposition to the meeting that I tried to schedule with the committee, and we just met with a group of landlords yesterday that wrapped up about 4:30.
Okay, thank you. So, Alderman, I'm going to ask you what's your pleasure.
Motion to table.
For how long?
I don't even know what the proper motion should be, because it's already been tabled before. So I'm not exactly sure what the proper motion should be, but I know we shouldn't vote on this, because we already voted on this.
Yes.
I think make a date, but I think the new council should probably be voting on it. So it'd be late May.
So are you saying that it should come back to this committee in May?
Probably.
Okay, motion to table until public services in May. I don't know what that date would be.
Let's look and see.
May 27th.
I do have a quick question. I'm just trying to harken back how many months we've been tabling this, and I'm just curious how long anybody believes it's going to take to actually move this forward. Because it's been, I think, at least 6 months.
We're almost there.
I was hoping, so I'm going to say it's been longer than that, because again, this started when former Alderwoman Brown was on the council.
Yes.
So this been more than 2 years
Yeah.
since we actually originally started this. And I'll just also add, just for everybody's knowledge of how we got here, we started this then, and then as a result of a case that Alderman Cooper referred to Mrs. Finch, there was a plan to have a meeting with to discuss the newest ordinance, not this version, the one we have on the books now that we actually amended right before prior corporation counsel Simon retired. There was a plan to have a meeting where we would explain to the public, both the landlords and the tenants, all of the changes that were made in the version of the ordinance we have now. And when we had the meeting to discuss a public meeting, what was determined was that there were problems with the ordinance that we have now, which then led to the revisions and rewriting. Because one of the things that came up in that conversation was, well, I asked, what does the registration form say? Does the registration form match the ordinance? And the registration form did not. Which is then, so then it made us loop back and start all over. That's what actually started this. My hope was that we would have just made the change that we suggested on the 1st. We could have voted on that tonight. We could have voted, because that was one change. It was notification. And the only reason we didn't do the friendly amendment that night is because the way that this was written, there was no way to actually work it in, because the only place where notification occurred was about, I believe, in retaliation or something like that. So it wasn't written in such a way that it would have just allowed the adding of a sentence. So it had to be looked at and then changed to include that language. But since this doesn't include that language, we can't vote on it. So that was my hope. My hope was we would have voted on that one change that we suggested on the, forget what date now, the first Tuesday in April. We would have voted on that change tonight. Then it would have gone to full council. We would have approved it, and we would have moved on. And then anything that came from additional conversations could have then been in a future revision.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that that's what people expected from the last meeting. But since that hasn't happened, this is where we are. So unfortunately, I agree with you. This has been going on for a very long time. But if the last change we suggested didn't get made, then there's nothing for us to vote on, because this document has already been tabled.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess I'm concerned because in 163.04C, I mean, we've way past our rental registration period of, January 31st, so.
We knew that was gonna happen when we started this.
Mm-hmm.
And we said we didn't care to get it right, because we figured it would be a simple and quick fix.
And back in October, when it came up and it was, I think, rushed to come to council then, because we were trying to make the date, there were revisions that hadn't been made, and so it got tabled then. But so I feel like it's just a victim of a lot of.
Well, we were in push too, because we had 2 new employees coming on for inside inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
And we were hoping that we could go ahead and do the registration and everything and we figured it was gonna be a week or 2. We didn't figure it was gonna be this long.
Nope.
So.
And one of the reasons why we had to make the changes is because the paperwork from the last rental registrations did not include any language for inside inspections. No. Therefore, no landlord had ever actually consented to inside inspection.
And I had problems when I got ready to register last year, because it didn't have all my properties listed. And I'm danged if I was gonna come down and pay for 2 of them and let the other one sit out in limbo on the computer, so I had to pay it down here in person, making sure I got a receipt. So the next meeting will be May 27th.
Motion to table till May 27th.
Well, we got to put it in front of the committee before then, or
no, that's the committee.
Oh, I thought that was council.
That will be Public Service Committee.
That's Public Service Committee.
Yes, Ms. Ludwig.
This is my last comment. I just think a lot of these things can be done in steps. We can approve tonight. We can then move to approve. Not these particular changes.
We tabled these particular changes.
Yes, but we have seen all of these before.
And we tabled them as a full council.
Almost a month, and yet here we are still.
But that's not up to us to make the change.
Well, I do hope that the committee can get together soon and get this moving along. But in my opinion, I do believe that we can approve and then come back with new amendments and then approve those, and we can get this ball rolling instead of procrastinating it, month after month after month. And
well, hopefully with this and what we got from last night's meeting, we should have this done in May. It should be done.
So could I just, for clarification, is what I'm hearing, what you have before you, if we just add the notice issue and any landlord feedback or revisions we want to make, we can do that in the future? Will that satisfy the alderpersons present here, and will that be something that the full council will consider next Tuesday?
We don't
Is that what
have
I'm hearing?
Tuesday, do we?
Yeah.
Not next Tuesday, the week after.
Go ahead.
From my personal perspective, yes, because that was the one thing that I asked for. That was the one thing that kept me from voting for it. So for this document, so if this document only has the notifications on there, I would be okay with passing a revised version of a document with just that. And then whatever comes after that, then that becomes a whole new process as it relates to revising it.
Yeah, because I'd really like to see what was discussed yesterday.
I would
And
too.
there's gonna be revisions that are gonna have to be made.
Yep. And one of the reasons why I suggested that it happen here is so, like I said, so that everybody could be here. Because I know that you are a landlord just like I am a landlord, and that you have very strong opinions about what should be happening here. And your opinions should be heard, but it doesn't help us that you can't go to a meeting because there's already 2 people on the committee that are there.
I understand that.
Yep. So I think that that's why that was my reason for pushing for it to happen publicly. So then that way we could move forward on the feedback that we were getting from the landlords and all hear them at the same time. Because I feel like this process is going to take that much longer if we continue to do it behind closed doors, because we've now included the public in the conversation and not all of us are included in the conversation.
Right.
And that's not fair.
No.
It's not fair to have, I don't know how many people were present at the meeting, but it's not fair to have, 5 to 10 additional people involved in the conversation when 14 people have to vote and only 2 of the 14 people can actually participate in the conversation.
Right. And the thing of it is, if it'd been here and we'd set up a meeting for landlords as well as us, it's all recorded.
Exactly.
And it's all above board. Newspaper would have known about it. Radio station would have known about it. We wouldn't have had a problem. I don't know why it didn't happen.
I can't
answer. So, with
I guess.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that I understand. If the changes are made per what Alderwoman or Vice Mayor Teague was requesting, plus the changes that Corporate Counsel Leon Parker was talking yesterday with the committee regarding the landlords, if those are brought forward in 2 weeks, we're going to allow this to move forward and bring it to full council in 2 weeks. Is that what I understand?
May 27th.
There's a motion on the floor to table this until May 27th, but to clarify, I think that the members want to see the changes first before we know whether or not we would vote for them, because we don't know what they are. We have no idea. Do you know what they are?
No.
Therein lies the rub, because we haven't seen it. So we can't say, we could say we'd vote on it, and it could go back to being tabled again, or it could be voted down. So the question becomes, do we want to find something that's going to pass? Because we were prepared to vote 3 weeks ago.
Well, my opinion is that I would like to see them next time at full council, and most likely, we would table it anyway because that's what our pattern has been. But at least we would be able to see it and know.
But you see,
and we've already talked about
if
some of
we
those changes
If
tonight.
we make the change to this, to notification of the tenants, this is all taken care of. This has been tabled. Then what we've got is a different issue, a brand new issue, and we can deal with the revisions that come from the meeting yesterday. And we could insert that in here.
And we can also have our rental registrations go out.
Yes.
Because if we continue to table it, to your point earlier, if we continue to table it, we will have gone even more months without rental registrations. So I think everybody wants this to be done to a point where we all agreeing that this is revised and that we're satisfied with the revision so that we can move forward with business and have the rental registrations go out. And then if there's additional changes to be made, that become a subsequent revision.
Well, will you rescind your motion then and your second?
I can rescind my motion, yes. For just this change, yes.
Now, let me ask Corporate Counsel. She made the remark that there was only one place where notification come under, and that was underneath, landlord going after the tenant, retaliation. Will that change and be a separate spot in here somewhere for the 60-day notice, or not 60, for the request that we're asking for the notification to tenants?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vice Mayor Teague, are you asking that citation notices be sent to both the landlord and the tenant?
Yes.
Or occupant?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and that will add into this, and then that will be
That will be given to us
presented.
next week.
Yes.
Then we can go ahead and, with that amendment change, do you have any questions?
I've got it. Well, yeah, go ahead with this, but I'm still questioning why human resources aren't getting involved. I mean, they've always been involved in the past. 30 years they've been involved. They get the plate, and we go first to them, and then we go.
Mr.
Respond to that.
Yeah.
I think they were inappropriately involved in many situations because human relations should only be involved if there's an issue concerning discrimination because of age, sex, race, physical disability, sexism, something like that. If it's a retaliation issue based on a tenant perceiving that they've been mistreated by the landlord, that's a legal issue. That's not a human relations issue.
That's not what the job description said.
Well, I can tell. I mean, because I've read through, and I'll listen
The
to what
prior job description. I'm not talking about the recent one that the mayor presented to us. I'm saying the job description said that it would handle, I don't have it readily available in front of me, but I remember reading through it. And one of the major differences was the job description said that it would handle landlord-tenant complaints in general. I'm summarizing because I don't remember the exact language, but the job description said that. So I get what the ordinance says.
Yeah.
Right. I get what the ordinance says.
What the purpose of the Human Relations Board and Commission is very different from what the
job description says.
Yes.
And the job description predates
Yes.
our current administration because the person who was in the position, because first of all, the job was created by Mayor Palmer.
Yeah, like 35 years ago.
More than 35 years ago. No, the person who was in the position last was in the position for 35 years. Okay. She was not the first person in that position.
Okay, gotcha.
So when the form of government changed in the 80s, that's when the position was created.
Okay.
And so there were actually two prior occupants in that job before our last human relations administrator. But that position was created prior to her. And so that work had been done, and I believe that it was also said, because I remember deferring to Chairman Streebing saying how long, in a prior meeting, how long had this position been conducting business in this way. His response was forever. So, and I know he's been here for at least 3-4 terms?
Forever.
3.
Right.
Too long?
Right, so predates us, obviously. So I get what the ordinance says, but obviously, as was also mentioned tonight as it relates to electronic meetings, we don't actually follow all of our ordinances.
No.
So there's obviously a discrepancy between the job description and what the ordinance says. So maybe the ordinance wasn't updated, but the job description obviously had been changed or updated when we don't know, but at least as long as chairman has been here.
Yeah. Is that it?
Well, I'd like to see it in there that instead of the tenant may file a complaint against the owner for retaliation with the legal division, I'd rather change to human relations to the human relations office.
And then we would have to change the ordinance that defines the purpose of the Human Relations Commission Board.
Well, I don't think that was a board requirement, though. I don't think that the landlord-tenant concerns went to the commission. I think landlord-tenant concerns just went to the Human Relations Administrator as part of the functions of that job.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I understood. Understood.
Chairman, would you yield for a short rebuttal from the association?
Just hold on.
I was just hoping that perhaps legal counsel could explain why the legal department versus the human relations should handle the landlord-tenant complaints generally.
Well, I think Alderman York touched on it. Chapter 95 of our ordinance spells out what that human relations department, what kind of issues they handle. And a job description's not gonna determine what any one individual or department handles. I could change my job description and say that I'm gonna be responsible for all comptroller duties. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Trouble.
That's just one, I'm not qualified, and I wouldn't want to. But the job description, I'm not sure who changed that job description, but Chapter 95 is laid out, and to answer Alderwoman Ludwig's question, so when we get complaints, any type of complaints, but I think everybody's kind of focused on landlord-tenant issues, they're ultimately going to be handled either in circuit court or they're going to be handled in city court. We need somebody that's qualified to go out and view some of the issues that are being complained of, to interview the complainant, and that's what we do in the legal department. We have code enforcement officers that are certified and trained in environmental code. We have rental inspectors that are trained and certified. They're new. We have one that's certified, one that will be, and that's what we do.
But I'll say this, Alderman Cooper, it's been probably 8-9 years ago. Inspection department was under God knows who. It went on a yearly basis from this department to this department to this department to this department. So I believe human relations, they had to deal with everything because she was the only one they knew who was to put it in somebody's lap. And it moved up until 3 years ago. It was still being moved around. So,
but this new position or whatever we're doing with her, it's they're going to handle housing complaints. It's going straight to them first, isn't it? All housing complaints going legal now? I mean, it's.
I don't know because I haven't seen what they've got on the new person's
Here we go with something else
scope
we don't
of
know.
job duties.
According to this document, and one of the last changes that was made to this document, because this document originally did say human relations and then it was changed to legal. So it was changed to legal in a very recent, I don't know if it's the most recent, so I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but it was changed to legal somewhat recently. It was changed to legal after the human relations position became vacant. So, but prior to that, it did say human relations. One of the concerns that I have had and continue to have, actually, let me back up for a second. Just go back to that point for a second. And I brought that up in the last committee meeting we had, that I said that I thought it should stay with human relations. But I also said, but I'm only one vote out of 14. So obviously it takes 8 of us to determine what happens next and whether or not it can be approved or not with the change from human relations to legal. One of the concerns that I have is that one of the things that happens or that was happening with human relations is that anytime anybody had any problem and didn't know exactly where to go, which is kind of, I think, the point you were making, Chairman Streeping, is that they called human relations and human relations would then direct the citizen to the right place, yes, or help the citizen fill out the correct form, or, just help the citizen handle whatever issues that needed to be handled. And so I guess one of the questions then becomes, even if it is not a landlord-tenant complaint, Does legal take on all of those responsibilities? Because those things are not in Chapter 95. So then who takes on those responsibilities of, like the email that we got last week, which was, I called the city about some flooding around my building and my apartment complex, and I'm not exactly sure who I'm supposed to talk to and who should resolve this for me, because that was the email that we got last week. So I don't know who answers those questions for citizens when citizens call, but I do know that we don't have a department where that's in their job description, except for when it was in the Human Relations Administrator's job description.
Can we
Jerry?
recognize Jerry?
Jerry, what is it?
I would just like to say thank you for involving the Landlord Association. I mean, I did it for a year back, but, you know, less than 24 hours ago, we got to put some of our input into this. The members that attended were assured that we would have that information before tonight. We haven't. I think, I know you've been tabling and things, but the ones that are really involved that's going to affect are us, and we've only been involved in 24 hours.
Well,
the other thing is, procedurally, parliamentary procedure-wise, this committee did not table this ordinance. The full council did.
Yeah, they did.
I thought it was the full council that did.
Yes.
They did.
It was the full council.
It was full council.
The only one that can take it off the table is the full council. Committee can't override the full council.
Well, we could have voted no tonight. It's been the same
Well,
thing.
all I'm saying is, really, it's on the table till the council removes it. I just think if you can give us a little more time to work with you guys,
Well,
we can hopefully get
you'll get
something
to
done.
new revisions, what come through last night. That has nothing to do with what we're gonna do this evening.
well, Open Meetings Act, this was not on your agenda. This was not included in your agenda.
Amending
Just the,
Amending chapter 163
yes,
rental
but not the
registration.
actual document,
This is it.
not the actual document. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, I'll make a motion to remove legal division and put human resources in there, or human relations department in there.
It's already been tabled, though. It's the version of the document that we have is already tabled.
We're
But
making
I think,
revisions on your tenant thing.
well, that was brought up
That was brought up at the
at
full council.
the full council meeting.
Yes.
But I can concur with that. I don't know if it's a proper motion. I don't know if we're breaking parliamentary procedure or not.
What
But
I would say to do tonight is make sure that you get in here to get this off the ground. And then we can discuss more next week and make the change that you're in 2 weeks.
5th Tuesday next week.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You'll be by yourself, sir.
I'll be here by myself. I'm usually by myself. But no, let's do that way. And then the full council can see it and they can, because they're the ones that tabled this. The only thing we're doing to moving this on is we're wanting to see the notification of tenants and landlords. And that this is back on board and they can look at it next week. We can discuss what you just brought up in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks. And then they can make the change then before they vote on it. Yeah. If that's what they prefer.
And if you listen to the discussion from 3 weeks ago, that was the discussion.
That was a discussion, yes.
And I would just recommend that council people just glance at Chapter 95, because the declaration of the policy behind the human relations is something very different than putting those kind of things
Yes.
before the human relations director.
Yes.
Because it very clearly states it has everything to do with discrimination, and it defines the discrimination and all of that kind of stuff. So I would just encourage people to read through Chapter 95.
But this ordinance stops retaliation and discrimination. I think both of them were talked about that last meeting.
I think those are two very different things, in my opinion. Because you can have retaliation that's not based on discrimination. I'm not even sure.
We got to cover both.
I'm not even necessarily sure that Miss Irwin's case was a case of, there was no discrimination there. There was absolutely retaliation. Yeah, it was absolutely retaliation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
But we got to cover both.
Yeah.
Ms. Ludwig?
Yes, it is my opinion that landlord-tenant issues are best handled in the legal department, not with human resources or relations. And I was hoping that Corporate Counsel Parker could continue the request that I had of him to describe why the legal department should handle landlord-tenant.
Well, there's legal matters that are being addressed. So I think it's best addressed by attorneys rather than a human relations person. Go with that. And that's why. Also, are we going to have a human relations director go out and interview and observe issues with certain dwellings that they're not qualified to, that a code inspector or a rental inspector is qualified to? The legal department is just most suited to handle these type of complaints. They're not complaints. Discrimination complaints would be forwarded if they came to the legal department to the human relations director. Landlord-tenant issues, I think, are best suited for very obvious reasons to be handled by the legal department.
Vice Mayor?
I think one of the concerns that still is not being addressed is when something does not rise to the level of what would be considered a legitimate complaint and how those issues get resolved in general. And I do know from conversations with multiple landlords and with our former human relations administrator that sometimes she will help mediate situations before it even rose to the level of a legitimate complaint, just simply because mediation was a function of that position and that person was a trained mediator. And because there's an issue, all issues, for example, are not code violations. For example, and I'm not sure exactly why this was here, but since it is, we know that mold is not something that we have a code, an ordinance for. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not something that shouldn't be resolved. So basically, what would happen in that type of situation or other similar situations is the tenant, because we don't have code for this, because we probably won't have code for this, the tenant would have no recourse because there would be no legal basis for the city to get involved. That doesn't mean that when human relations was involved, that if if human relations talked to the landlord and said, the tenant came to us and said, this house has mold, and can you do anything to resolve this for the tenant, just in good faith, the good faith conversation goes somewhere. And I know that those types of issues were being dealt with by human relations. And I know that those are not the types of issues that legal would deal with because there would be no legal basis for legal to deal with them. And those are the things that I am most concerned about.
The ones that are going to
right,
fall
and
through the cracks.
Exactly. And I also do recall that one of the things that used to happen was if there was a situation that did require escalation to the legal department, that human relations did send it to the legal department, and then legal department did all of the things that corporation counsel brought up. Inspectors went out and did the inspection and all of those pieces. But I know that there are a lot of people, especially those who don't have means, who need hand-holding through this process and understanding what their what is and is not available to them. And sometimes, even when the city couldn't do anything, human relations sent people to Land of Lincoln Legal Aid, and those types of things. And so if it goes to legal, what I am hearing is we do the things that we do, and anything that we don't do, it just goes to court. Well, I think human relations did more than just that. Human relations said, for these things that do qualify for legal, I send you to the legal department. And for things that don't qualify for legal department, I'll see if I can get you some help some other type of way. That is the part that I'm most concerned about. And I've yet to hear anybody say this will stay with human relations or it won't. What I've heard is if I have a complaint against my landlord, if it's a legal issue, legal department should handle it. I agree with that. And I think the prior human relations administrator would agree with that too, because that's what happened. She would send things to the legal department. But all of the things that didn't qualify for the legal department still got handled. And I want to make sure that those things continue to get handled. Whether that's human relations, whether that's somebody in legal, as long as it's getting handled is my biggest concern.
And if I could just, since Vice Mayor brought up mold, that's a good example because mold is a problem and there are no laws that set permissible levels of mold. It'd be very expensive for any state to mandate for any municipality. But what you can do, what you can't do is refer someone to a private attorney or Land O'Lincoln. They're not going to be able to help you. But what you can do is when we have our code inspectors, our rental inspectors, they can address conditions that promote mold, such as water leaks, ventilation issues. Those are there could be code violations there that, if addressed by our certified inspectors, could help decrease mold issues. So that is a good example of why you'd want the legal department, which has the code inspectors and rental inspectors under that department. That'd be an excellent reason why you'd want the legal department instead of the human relations department to handle that.
All right, so we're back to the ordinance that was in front of us tonight with the change.
Chairman, just procedurally, and Madam Clerk can correct me if I'm wrong, we had a motion and a second.
Yes.
But we had Vice Mayor agreed to rescind that motion. I think we also need the second.
Well, I'm going to get that. Yes.
Sorry.
You're going to rescind your second?
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Sure.
Okay. And then are you making the request, the revision to this to have, like we discussed?
The revision to this document?
Yes.
Yes, I requested that the document be changed to add tenant notifications. What had come before the full council on the April, whatever, 3 weeks ago, was that was what was requested. The change that you are requesting, it already had changes from human relations to legal. So, to be quite honest, I feel like that just needs to be voted on.
Okay, and then in response to that, if he makes a lot of revisions, he can't make any more revisions to this then, because we're voting on this.
No, we're not voting on this. We're only asking for the one revision, which is tenant notification. Because that was what we asked for 3 weeks ago. And that's what we expected to see tonight.
But we will be voting on this tonight to go to full council.
On this document?
This
document has already been tabled. This document was tabled 3 weeks ago. It hasn't changed.
Okay.
That's why we have all this confusion.
And you're the ones, the only ones that can untable it.
That's
so
right.
The only thing we can do is put an amendment to it for the change.
But we did that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that in council. We wouldn't do that tonight.
Right. We can't do that tonight. I don't know what we do with this document.
Well, just.
Because I just went back and read the minutes, and you're exactly right.
I know what I said.
Well, we all do.
Well,
I can make any change to this document. We did make attempts to meet with the committee and incorporate these changes. That meeting didn't happen. I am happy to make any changes that are recommended by this committee and present it to the council. And I feel comfortable. I know what Vice Mayor is asking for, the tenant notice, and we'll have that by next Tuesday. And any other changes that I'm directed to make.
Chairman.
Trish is human resources. What do you want to do with the human relations? And
I don't
if we're
think,
gonna make
to be
changes-
quite honest, I don't think that we can do anything with that because that was already on the original document. I'm trying to make sure I follow parliamentary procedure. That was already in the document 3 weeks ago. Now, when we voted on this document 3 weeks ago, it was changed then from human relations to legal.
And it was discussed about,
That
we did discuss that too.
You got the minutes up.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we discussed.
We didn't discuss that
that particular
I
piece.
thought- I swore you did.
So I think that needs to be brought up to the full council. Because what was tabled was this document as it stands. And as it stands, it already had legal, it had human relations crossed out and legal included.
So what's your pleasure, folks?
Personally,
You want me to put up for vote and see what happens?
I don't think anybody's really too sure.
I don't think
what
there's
we're
anything to
doing.
vote on. Okay, maybe we should just pull up Robert's rules.
Or we not do nothing with it and just make sure it goes to, we didn't
We do
make a decision, do nothing and let it go to council.
That'd probably be the safest bet.
Yep.
Let's just do that. Just push this on with the revision that we asked for, to council, 2 weeks.
In the minutes, did we ask that it come back to this particular,
Yes, ma'am. To this meeting.
to this meeting?
Yes, we did.
But it hasn't been revised.
Hadn't been revised.
We asked for a revision
And it
3
wasn't
weeks
in there.
ago.
It wasn't in there.
That was never made.
I think we can make that amendment tonight, though.
I don't think.
No, we can't because we
Can't.
couldn't make it 3 weeks ago. Because the only place in here, the reason why we couldn't make it 3 weeks ago, because the way that it was written, that the only place where we talked about notifications was as it related to rental inspections, which has nothing to do with environmental code enforcement.
No.
And that was the reason why we couldn't make the friendly amendment 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Because this was drafted in such a way that there was nothing in here about environmental code enforcement. If there was something in here about environmental code enforcement, then we would have just added it then.
Yes.
So that's what we were voting on, and then it said, then we can add additional language later.
Yes, yes. And it wasn't brought to us with our request, so we technically can't do anything with it.
So we can't do anything with it
Can't do
because the
anything with it.
thing that we asked for 3 weeks ago did not happen.
Yep. All right, puts us to item information and monthly report. Mr. Parker, you have anything for us, or?
Yeah, you got the report for April of 2025. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions for legal? If not, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Puts item number 14, police, Chris Yates, police chief, his items of information, and March 2025 offense data report. Chief?
Has anybody got any questions on March? We're comparing that to the other, the last 3 years. March. If you look at the, let's see, it'd be third page after the cover, gives the variation. Positive or negative from the previous year. And then it goes into the bars, graphs, and then the distribution. Any questions?
Any questions for the chief? Yes?
If there's no questions.
I don't think so.
The only other information that I have is we have 2 officers graduating from PTI this Thursday. We have 5 officers that will be sworn in next Wednesday. We also have 5 auxiliary officers that have just completed quite extensive. I can't remember how many hours.
Chief, could you put your microphone
Oh, sorry. It's been several weeks of training for auxiliary, and then they'll be sworn in on, well, we have to make a new date because we're gonna have to postpone from this week. Camera grant, the update on that is we've got everything. Now we're just waiting for the final installation. And we have a couple areas where Ameren still needs to provide power. So we're working on that. And the radios are still in the test and evaluation stage. If you remember, we encumbered some money from last year's budget. So we didn't have to rush a purchase on equipment that wasn't effective or what we needed. Didn't want to waste anything. And that is it, unless anybody has any questions.
May 3rd.
May 3rd. Should have a lot of people out there. Unfortunately, the Easter egg hunt was moved, I think.
Yeah, to Roselawn.
Yeah, to Roselawn. And we also had officers taking the sergeant's test and sergeants taking the lieutenant's test, so we can have an active list.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief.
Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I got one question.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I was talking to a young lady and they supposed to have that taser test demonstration.
Oh.
Yeah, that passed yet? Oh, it's coming up.
Well, I'm glad you volunteered for it. He's referring to a taser demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anytime you want to step up as a volunteer to get tased.
Oh, no, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an officer going on.
I'd watch. You can put me down, I'll watch.
She asked me to be there, and I didn't know when it was. I forgot to ask her when was it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got Mia coming in.
Oh, you mean the new candidates when they have to, okay, what he's referring to is every officer, and there's been debate on this, like, well, you don't have to, do a lot of things, but one of the things in our certification, and we have trained instructors on the department that certify our officers in the taser. It's a less lethal force option. And you can attract more of the officers into the room to witness training. You can't even get that many people by bringing in donuts and treats. But whenever there's taser training and the new candidates are going through the process of getting tased, it's usually a full house.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, you're welcome to be there. Just get a hold of me. It'll be sometime next week.
Oh, it'll be sometime next week?
Yeah. Probably Monday or Tuesday, but get there early if you want a seat.
Huh.
No, it's all good. It is, and the truth behind it, the reason why it's not for entertainment purposes, but you need to know what you're submitting someone else to. And that way you can determine length and the effectiveness of it.
I remember when we first come out with the tasers here, and it was a big controversy whether we were going to do them or not. Mm-hmm. And it was probably 2 months after that. They had some problems out at Fair Oaks, and they went in for a guy, and all of a sudden he's seen that taser, and he's nope, I've heard about those. He was a pussycat from that point on.
There's there's quite a bit of empirical data in talking about tasers. There's quite a bit of empirical data that supports a drastic reduction in harm and injury to not just the police but to the public. And I'd say when they first came out, we had to do demos, and we had a group of officers because we were one of the first departments in this area, this region, that utilized them under Chief Carl Alexander. And so we would take them out for a demo, and then we'd ask for volunteers, and no one would volunteer. So I was an officer at the time, and my sergeant that I helped train with always volunteered me. So I think the last count I was like at 16 or 17 volunteer deployment hits with the taser, and it hasn't hurt me.
Yeah, well.
No, it's I strongly believe in it. I didn't use it much as an officer, but when I see it often, even in the display, we want to do anything that we can to reduce harm to either the public or the officers. And it's been an effective tool, not just in Danville, not just in the state of Illinois, but nationwide. It gives a force option that's less lethal.
Thank you, Chief. Next Monday or Tuesday, you should get there early for a seat. So get a hold of them if you want to go and watch. Number 15, Public Works, Dave Rui, Director. He has 15 A's resolution approving a preliminary subdivision plant named Danville Kirchner Subdivision. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense for the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15 A's resolution?
Well, you might as well take A and B both, shouldn't you?
No, I'm going to keep them separate.
Okay. Logan? This was before me, so fill me in. I mean, I got a general idea what you're doing, but
Yep. So months and months ago, the city of Danville and Kirchner Building Centers reached a redevelopment agreement for said real estate that you see on this plat to be sold or deeded to Kirchner Building Centers. As an incentive for them to renovate the former Goodwill building and to build several outbuildings for a lumber yard. As a part of that process, this is essentially all of the lots that you see in Lot 1 and in Lot 2 are being combined into Lot 1 and 2 for simpler tax purposes, easements, things like that. So this is just a part of the replatting process to bring all the lots that have been deeded to Kirchner Building Centers together.
they got any timeline when they want to get over there and?
Yeah, we do have all civil and architectural drawings in the city of Danville's hands under review right now. I expect those to be reviewed and a building permit to be issued hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So you should start seeing some construction occurring, I hope within the next month or so, but I do know they're going to go out there and you'll see some minor earthwork, which is involved with the mini tree stumps that the city left behind on the former lots. So you will see some activity in the coming weeks over there.
And then what happens to the Kirchner building on Williams then?
Yeah, so obviously the derivative of this entire project is the lumber yard, which is to the north of their original site, is an integral part of the William Street realignment. So that project will begin. And the former building, I believe we're going to leave that up to the aldermen. We will be providing our recommendations on, we do have a contract clause in the redevelopment agreement for the city of Danville to take possession and to essentially demolish to clean up the site. For the former structure, but we'll come with a recommendation. Hopefully, we have a phase 1 and phase 2 report on the site to understand the liabilities of the property. It is clean environmentally, so it's whether or not we want to take on the burden of essentially demolition. We do not have to take possession of that site if we choose not to as the city.
So the realignment of Williams is actually what is it going to be?
It's still going to have a minor S jog in it. I can send you, it's been designed. Okay. I can send you that. But it's essentially got to remove the 90 degree and then have a minor S jog that goes through that lumber yacht and then S around. where the former school was.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call on 15A, please.
Vice Mayor Teague,
Yes.
Alderman Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. 15B is a resolution approving final subdivision plat named Kirchner Danville subdivision. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15B?
Why is there a preliminary and a final?
Yeah, good question. This is considered a minor subdivision per our subdivision ordinance. So the preliminary and final go separately just in case there is an issue with the preliminary plat and there's still a chance to make revisions into the final plat. Then you have the major subdivision. That process goes to planning and zoning first, and then the final comes to city council. But since this is only a minor, it's a preliminary and city council. Both have to go to city council. No planning commission is involved in this process, just city staff.
So it's basically required by ordinance that you have both.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions on 15B's resolution? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes. Thank you. Puts us 15C. We have a resolution approving a highway authority agreement and addendum between the city of Danville and SMS Oil Company Incorporated. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Any questions on 15C's resolution?
There are issues over there, Logan?
Yeah, so this is hopefully going to be rectifying this issue. We've been working with the consultant for this property, which is on the southeast corner of North Bowman and East Voorhees Street. It's been identified that there's petroleum on the site. Page 171 in my packet that I'm looking at shows what they call plumes coming out into public right-of-way. As a mandate from the EPA, they have to have a highway authority agreement signed by the city of Danville because they cannot get under our public right-of-way or not very cost-effectively get underneath the city of Danville's public right-of-way to remediate the petroleum plume there. As an addendum to this, something that we're starting to mandate as the city of Danville as an addendum to the initial boilerplate highway authority agreement, stating that the owner is responsible if the city of Danville ever has to disturb any soil and any soil is moved or relocated, the owner is responsible for the cost for the soil to go to a special location.
Yes, John?
Is that something new, or why hadn't that ever been done in the past?
The addendums?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be frank with you, I don't know if my predecessors installed them or not. That is something that I started installing a couple of years ago.
Getting very much resistance off of it?
We don't offer very much of a choice, to be frank with you. The liability is way too high for the city of Danville to take on that cost burden.
Good enough.
Any other questions on 15C? If not,
So is
Vice
there
Mayor?
leakage now? Like, how do we get here?
Yeah, there likely was a tank leak at some point in time. I'm not sure when it occurred, but it has been identified, and soil borings can confirm that petroleum did leak from a tank at this site at some point in time.
But we don't believe that there are any leaks now.
There
or
wouldn't
we-
be operating
okay.
if there were.
Okay.
Any other questions? Roll call on 15C's resolution.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering, Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Do you guys got any more items of information for us?
Yes, one item. I don't like doing this, but I'm going to ask for special permission to bring a resolution to the next city council meeting. I'm going to speak very broadly, but it's a positive item. We've had a market rate housing developer approach the city of Danville very, very recently to build a minimum of 2 to 4 market rate houses in the city of Danville. The location will be marked in the redevelopment agreement. I do not want to disclose that information right now until the final agreement has been drafted and comes to city council. Due to Public Works and the city council and missing a Tuesday, that sets us back about 5 to 6 weeks when I can revisit this. And as a good faith effort to the developer, we'd like to hopefully get this resolution for the redevelopment agreement considered next city council meeting. So with your blessing, I'd like to bring that redevelopment agreement. It's nothing but positive, I can assure you, to build market rate homes in exchange for the donation of land from the city of Danville. It's already property acquired and owned by the city to be donated as an incentive.
How many properties?
Right now, the reason I'm not disclosing is we're at a minimum of 5 lots in the city right now, but there may be more.
Okay.
This is going to be a very exciting opportunity that if it goes well, we'd like to keep the developer around for a bulk build, a new subdivision in the city of Danville, which we had 0 homes built last year in the city. So we're working very hard to make this happen.
New York?
And these are 4 single-family homes.
Single-family homes, market rate.
And the good thing is they approached us, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, and that's all I'm gonna declare on this. So they just asked because of the timeliness. We want to show them that we mean business and we don't want to put them off for another month. So.
And I want to make it very clear that I'm not trying to not be transparent. I just don't want to make promises or undersell anything that I'm not aware of at this point in time.
Anybody got any problems with it coming to? Nope. We're all good then.
Okay.
Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you.
Puts us item number 16, the Treasury Report. Chris Herron is here, Treasurer, and 16A is June, July, and August of 2024 Treasury Report and bank reconciliations. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Chairman. As Chairman stated, in your packet, you'll see the June, July, and August 2024 Treasurer's Reports, also the bank reconciliation tracker, which we try to put in there every time. We are now roughly 6 months behind, but gaining ground every month to bringing this current. I would like to recognize the Finance Department for their daily help on this also, to where we can get multiple treasurer's reports going. Also in the office, we completed our first quarter pension board meeting for both fire and police. All the financials were approved. All of our affidavits that we collect yearly to make sure that all the pensioners are alive so they can get checks have all been submitted, and they are all confirmed. And then we've also been working in the basement vault, going through the past documents. We're filling out our application for authority to dispose of local records before we move across the street. And that's a pretty big job also. So are there any questions?
I have a comment. It's a good thing that the past treasurer didn't get rid of some of those records that were supposed to have been gotten rid of, because it was a godsend for going through and finding stuff that we thought was gone.
They've come in handy for MFT for sure.
So
they're going away though.
Hey, that's fine. They were supposed to
I
went.
was happy finally.
They were supposed to go and went away quite a few years ago, and it just didn't happen. It just moved from office to office. So, yes, Vice Mayor.
I just have a comment in that I am pleased that we are being responsible with our old records and doing all the proper paperwork and whatnot to dispose of them the proper way before we move.
I am too, and I'd like to thank both departments for all this, because when I brought this problem up to you, believe me, who would have known when we went clear back to 2017? So
yeah, and you're talking about the bank reconciliation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
As far as the documents, I'd like to recognize the city clerk also. She's taught us all throughout all the departments how we can get rid of our documents and all the legal paperwork we have to do, and she's given us good examples of what to do, and so we're trying to follow those examples and just be proactive and get it done before we move on.
Do we still have stipulations holding back grants?
The bad news is yes. The good news is we, fingers crossed, everybody, fingers and toes, we should be able to present the audit for 2024 at the next full council meeting.
Oh, okay, well,
So
thank
at that point, we'll be able to file that with GATA and get the stop pay removed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? If not, thank you. Thank you. Closed session, no need for. Items of information, anybody got anything for the good of the cause? Committee members, comments? Taking care of everything on the agenda, I will move to have a motion to adjourn in a second, please.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.